this part 2 of 3 of how to make a low budget performance style music video, we're going to jump into the edit. So I'm using Davinci Resolve here, but these principles will be pretty much the same for any NLE. Once you've imported all your files, the first thing you want to do is chuck a quick temporary correction LUT on it because editing log files is not particularly inspiring. Then we're going to jump over into the edit. So it's broken down into a few sections. First up is sync, then after that is selects, then after that we've got rough cut, and then we've got fine cut before eventually moving on to color and so on. So if we jump over into the sync timeline first, you can see here that I've laid everything out in a very specific way. On the very bottom, I've left an empty track. This is so that we can pull down selected clips later. Above that, I've got my master shot. I've only got one master shot for this shoot. As aforementioned in the previous video, I usually only use my last master that I shoot. Next up, we've got drums, a mid shot, medium close-up, over the shoulder, and a drum pedal close-up. Then we've got some vocalist B-roll, some vocalist mid-shot 2, and vocalist close-up. Then we've got the bass mid-close-up, another bass mid-close-up, and then on top of that we've got the lead guitar MCU, lead guitar close-up, and then our moving master. I've color-coded each clip as well depending on who the primary focus in that clip is. You'll see more why I did this later. So we put the final music track here that has the click track leading into it. And then basically all we do is we go through and we line up all of our audio tracks until all the click tracks line up. It's pretty simple. You can try and do an auto sync, but it's probably not going to work because the audio is quite different between all of the takes. Sometimes you're yelling direction over top of the song. It's easier just to use this click track and sort of sync it old school like you used to with a clapperboard. So you just go through methodically syncing all of the tracks. Once that's done, we're going to mute all of the live tracks because we no longer need those. And we're also going to lock all of the tracks as well as locking our primary music track. So if I drop that down to the bottom, this is what the finished selects look like. So basically what's going on here is I've gone through and I've cut out all of the parts that are not usable. So say the camera was repositioning or the musician was out of time. What I've also done is I've gone through and I've put a bunch of markers in different places. Now, these markers are what I like to call hero moments. So they're basically the best parts of the performance. And every now and then, I'll also put a red marker in. Now, these red markers are just the same as the hero moments, except these are ones that really should end up in the final video, the really like key, raw, gritty moments. So you just go through and remove all the stuff that you don't want to use, and then mark up the stuff that you think are really key, good moments. I recommend starting on the top track because there's no way to solo tracks currently in Davinci Resolve, so you can just turn the tracks off as you move down. Another handy hint is if you lock all of the tracks that you're not currently working on, you can just do your simple like IO and then, lift delete instead of having to, select stuff with the mouse. So once that's done, we're going to move on to the rough cut. And basically we want that finished cut to look like this, a flat timeline with the music track underneath and the click track removed from the start. Basically what we've done here is we've gone through and we've looked at which takes are available for each moment in the music video, and then we've selected the best ones, trying not to repeat ourselves too often. This is where that color coding really comes in handy, because if you see the finished timeline here, you can see exactly which band member is getting how much coverage. And especially at a glance, you can see over the entire music video whether something's repeating very often. Like for example, here you can see drummer, lead vocalist in quite quick succession. So you just want to check those moments and see if they're working. And generally, depending on the band's hierarchy, this will give you a pretty good idea whether you've got a nice even spread or not. This is usually when I exit my full screen timeline mode and then move into the 2-up view. Next, we'll jump over into the fine cut. This is pretty simple. Basically, we're just going to go through and watch the entire video. We're going to find cuts that feel a little bit awkward, where the timing's a bit off. So basically it's all about flow, right? Like that's what editing is, a seamless flow of information. It's best to watch it back live and just keep your finger on the M key on the keyboard. And every time you see a cut that's not quite right, you just hit a mark and it'll drop a marker on the timeline where you need to go back and revisit. And then you can go and work on individual cuts. And you just roll your cut backwards and forwards until you've got it feeling just right. The Davinci Resolve Speed Editor with the jog shuttle wheel is amazing for this. This is a good time as well to drop in some temporary titles and any major temporary effects like, for example, blur-ins and blur-outs, but no color grading or anything yet. Depending on how you're working, you'll either need to send this cutaway for approval now to the client, or if this is a personal project, you can move on to the color grade and finishing. And that's the edit done. I think one of the most important things to remember is to duplicate your timeline every time you hit a major milestone, just so that you can go back if you mess something up horribly, Or if you just want to copy and paste a clip across that you've deleted, that way you don't lose any work. It's called working non-destructively. I really prefer to edit this way rather than doing a multicam style switching edit, because it really allows me to focus in on those key hero moments and make sure they end up in the final work. An edit like this will take me typically anywhere between 1 to 2 days, start to finish, and then usually another half day for the color grade. Even if you shot narrative stuff to go on top of this, the base edit would still more or less be the same, and you would just drop your narrative stuff on top once you're done. In the next and final video, part 3, I'm going to break down how I did the color grade, titles, and how I handle deliverables. I'm also going to have a quick look at which marketing materials are ideal to provide your clients. So again, I hope that was useful, and thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.